Hi again, everybody. Welcome back to Enjoy English School. I'm Bruce.
Hi, I'm Bernice.
And today is day 2, Vintage Fashion. We're going to take a closer look at something. I mean, we all wear clothing, but not everybody has a sense of style, is even aware of what the fashions are at the time. The opposite of someone like that is a clothes hound, H-O-U-N-D. Hound is dog, and it simply means like a group of dogs will run together to try to catch an animal. In the world of fashion, some people are crazy about, I got to buy something because it's new. It's the new fashion, and I have to be part of the new fashion. We're going to continue talking about that topic today.
没错，我们今天这个专题特写呢，一样是要讲到这个比较复古的时尚。那有像刚刚 Bruce 老师讲的，一群狗追着那个时尚跑，就是我一定要这个追寻这样的一个时尚的风格。所以我们今天呢，要继续这样的一个话题。
Vintage fashion. Vintage fashion is a huge global industry. Popular places to look for vintage items include local thrift stores, yard sales, and specialty retailers online. It's not always easy to make vintage clothing appear fashionable in the modern world. First of all, the sizes of vintage items are usually much smaller than modern sizes. So, if you usually wear a medium, you'll probably need a large for a vintage item. If you want to get a vintage look, it's a great idea to find a local tailor who can help alter the clothes so that they will fit you perfectly. Second, it can be challenging to decide whether to mix old and new styles or to go with a head-to-toe vintage look. If you are interested in developing a vintage fashion sense, it is important to do some research and get a sense of which decades you prefer. Fashion changes quickly, and knowing which era is your favorite will help everything go together. Fashion is a great form of self-expression, and a good vintage look will never go out of style.
Okay, let's get busy with our first paragraph for day 2 of Vintage Fashion. Vintage fashion is a huge global industry. Global means the whole world, worldwide. Wide, one word as an adjective. Everywhere you go, you're going to find people wearing different styles of clothing. Sometimes the young people in most countries will wear similar, not always the same, but similar clothing. Blue jeans. There are very few cultures where the young people do not wear blue jeans. That's an example of vintage fashion. The blue jean goes back a long, long time. It's about 100 years old.
没错，所以呢，这边一开始就先讲了，所谓这个复古时尚呢，其实它是一个非常巨大的，而且是全球性的一个产业。就如同刚刚 Bruce 老师讲的，你看年轻人的穿着，可能在不同的国家，好，在同一个时期，大家都会穿差不多类似这样的一个风格的时尚的时装。那这时候我们就可以说，它是一个全球性的一个产业。
Yeah, blue jeans, I mentioned, T-shirt. In the summer, no matter where you go in the world, many or most of the young people are wearing blue jeans with a T-shirt.
对，夏天的时候，大家都是穿着 T-shirt， 然后牛仔裤。
Popular places to look for vintage items include local thrift stores, yard sales, and specialty retailers online. Remember, yesterday we talked about young people like to go through their parents' closets to find older clothing that they think is still cool to wear. Well, there are thrift stores in many countries. This is where used clothing is prepared and washed and then sold to the public at a much lower price than when it was bought. A yard sale, a little bit similar, except that is a family wants to, maybe they're going to move and they don't need everything, they don't want to take everything. They will put things out in their yard, the front yard, sometimes the backyard, to show people and to discuss how much they will sell it for. That's very popular in the United States. And specialty retailers online. You can go use your computer, you go online and look for vintage clothing, and they will give you information about who is selling what, where, for how much.
没错，所以接下来呢，就是说呢，你除了去爸爸妈妈的衣柜里面去找之外呢，还有一些呢比较这个受欢迎的、好热门的一些地点，你可以找得到这些所谓的复古的这些东西，包含呢，比如说当地有一些所谓的旧货店。那老师刚才解释这个 thrift stores。它其实就是出售那种二手的衣物，然后或者是家具等等等，然后呢，可能它用来一些这个对于一些慈善单位的募款啊等等的哈，所以他们就会去卖，然后就价格非常的便宜就对了。然后再来就是做这个庭院市集，就是说，可能这个家庭要搬家了。然后他们有一些东西就会把它放在他们的前院或者是后院，然后拿来做这个拍卖。然后再来呢，最方便的嘛，就是你上网路有一些他们专门的这些零售商就会给你一些哪一些复古时尚的物件你可以买得到，然后你可能也可以得到一个比较立即性的一个资讯。所以这三个地方又是其他的一些地点，提供给大家去买一些这个所谓的复古的这些品项的产品。
Okay, let's take a short break before we continue. All right, welcome back to Vintage Fashion. It's not always easy to make vintage clothing appear fashionable in the modern world. Nowadays, vintage fashion is not always available or popular. It depends. It comes and goes.
所以 not always 就是并非总是这个样子，就是说这件事情也不能说它这么样的容易，就是说你要让之前的那些复古的这些服装，然后 appear 就是表现得出来，显现得出来 fashionable 现在又非常的流行时尚，而且是在我们这样的一个现代世界里，你要让这些复古的服装又变得非常流行，其实不是那么容易的。
First of all, now we're going to explain why it's not easy to buy vintage clothing. First of all, the sizes of vintage items are usually much smaller than modern sizes. People today are larger and heavier than they were, say, 100 years ago. We're not talking about twice as tall or 5 times, well, not everybody, but besides me, there are people now 100, 150 kg, 公斤, that was almost impossible 100 years ago. There wasn't that much food around.
Yeah, 对。
So anyway, the size of clothing has changed. That's one big difference between clothes from the vintage age and the clothes available today.
对，所以呢，第一件事情呢，为什么不是那么容易呢？就是首先人的这个体型啊、体重啊，这就变得很不一样了，对不对？以前的人当然比较稍微瘦瘦的啦，那你说高度的话，可能差不多啦哈，但就是体型会比较稍微小一点，所以呢，这个 size 就是第一个考量了。所以以前的 vintage items 它的 sizes 基本上就是比较 much smaller， 小得多了。比什么东西小得多呢？比这个 modern sizes， 比我们现代版的这个 size 要小得太多了。所以光是 size 你要让它变得非常的 fashionable， 就是第一个它的困难度就在这儿了。
Speaking of height, how tall people are, when I first came to Taiwan a long, long time ago, I was about average height with the men that I saw at that time. Now that's we'll call it 1980, 40 years ago.
Okay.
And now the younger generation, I'm always looking up and talking to them.
Yes.
So we use inches, 3-4 inches or about 10 centimeters taller the generation today compared to their parents.
所以老师讲的就是他40年前那个时候来台湾，他的这个身高大概就是差不多水准的身高，但是现在人都长得更高了这样子。
Right. So if you usually wear a medium, remember SML, small, medium, large, XL.
Extra large. Extra large.
You'll probably need a large for a vintage item. The medium today is like the large of a vintage item 50, 80 years ago.
对，所以他这边就说，如果呢你是穿 medium， 你穿中等 size 的这样的一个衣服的话呢，可能如果你今天想要买这个 vintage 的这个东西，那就你可能要穿到 L 号了，就是往上再走一个号码了。
Add one size. It should be about. If you want to get a vintage look, now this look is the fashion or style. It's a great idea to find a local tailor. A tailor is someone who makes clothing, who can help alter the clothes. This vintage piece is not big enough, but I can take out the seam, SEAM, and put something there and make it larger for you. Or I can, if you have material, I can make a new suit for you, or shirt or pair of pants. That's what tailors do. And we use the verb alter with tailor. Tailors alter clothing. They change it. They don't change the color of it. They change the shape or size of it so that they will fit you perfectly. Fit has a lot of meanings and uses, but when we're talking about clothing, over the winter I ate too much and now my pants don't fit me.
对，所以呢，这边就是说呢，刚才我们讲的是 size 的部分，那接下来就是那个 vintage look， 就是你要看起来它的风格、它的样貌，就像复古的风格跟样貌的话呢，那比较好的一个这个方法呢，就是你最好去找一个当地的这个裁缝师。这个裁缝师呢，基本上他们就可以帮助你来 alter。刚刚讲了 alter 就是稍微做一些修改，不是颜色的部分，通常就是 size 的部分，或者是它的长度啊这样子。所以帮你做一些这个修改，这样子的话呢，这些衣服呢就会呢对你来说非常的完美的合身 ，suit you to a T。
Ooh, you know that? Wow.
Yeah, 我知道这个片语，那个 T 就是 T 这个字母 ，OK， 就是表示很合身。哇，你穿上去就是可以把你的身材啊，然后大小什么的完整的配合你。那这时候我们就可以用到这样的一个片语了。
Since I came to Taiwan, all my clothes are tailor-made. At first, my American friend said, "Oh, you're rich." But you will save money, actually, if you go to a tailor. First of all, you choose everything, so you must be happy with it.
Yeah.
And they can alter, if you gain a little bit too much weight, they can alter it to let material out. You'll never lose money by going to a tailor, and they're for you. They're made for you.
所以 Bruce 老师一说，他到了台湾以后，他的衣服大部分都是量身定做的，就是会有一个专门的这个师傅帮他定做。那基本上他觉得是蛮值得花这个钱的，因为他可以针对你的体型啊，然后你变胖了变瘦，他可以去做这个修改。
Okay, that's it for that paragraph. We'll take a short break and come right back.
好的。
Okay, here's our next section. Secondly, it can be challenging to decide whether to mix old and new styles or to go with a head-to-toe vintage look. First of all, you might not find a hat in a certain kind of vintage clothing. Men used to wear hats all the time. In Europe and North America, a man wouldn't leave the house without wearing a hat. It was proper to wear that sort of thing. Today, that kind of hat is very hard to find. So we say if something is very difficult to do, it is challenging. Also, will your hat match your jacket or your shoes? You really have to spend a lot of time and not a little money if you want a few outfits.
没错，所以呢，第二点他就讲的是为什么刚才我们承接上面讲的就是复古的这个服装呢，在现代这个世界呢，其实不是那么样的容易。就是第二点，就是说它可能有一点 challenging， 就是相当有挑战性的。就是你今天呢，你要去决定，你今天如果要把新旧两个元素混合在一起的话呢，是不是你可以做这样的一个混合？好，又或者是否呢？你可以 go with 的意思就是 match， 你是不是可以搭配它？然后呢，你这个搭配的方式是要从头到你的脚趾头，也就是彻头彻尾的，你都必须是 vintage look， 那就很难了。就像刚刚Bruce老师讲，他们要戴帽子，你要去找到那样子的风格的帽子已经很难。再来就是你的帽子还要搭配你的衣服，再搭配你的裤子，再搭配你的这些所有的搭配的外在的这个搭配，都必须要那个讲究的，所以确实是不是那么样的容易。
If you are interested in developing a vintage fashion sense, it is important to do some research and get a sense of which decades you prefer. We've just been talking about it's not easy to find clothes that match your idea of a vintage look. So do some research. Look at fashion magazines online from the 1930s or 40s or 50s, whatever period of time seems to interest you.
没错，所以呢，如果你真的非常的感兴趣，就是对于如何培养出这样的复古时尚的一种 sense， 这样的一个知觉，这样的一个嗅觉的话呢，这件事情很重要的就是你要先去做一些功课嘛，对不对？去研究一下。那现在有这个 internet 非常的方便，你就上网路去找，啪啪啪就会有很多的资讯跳出来了。所以第一个你要先去研究一下，然后并且呢，你要去 get a sense of， 就是你要去懂得它的整体的一个感觉。好，那你要怎么样得到这样的一个感觉呢？就是说，是不是哪一个 decades， 就是这个每一个10年的这个年代，哪一个年代是你 prefer， 你比较喜欢的，那你就去按照这个时代的那个风格来去做你的变换，那可能这样子会比较稍微容易一些。
Fashion changes quickly. Remember from yesterday, spring, summer, then fall, winter. Well, the next spring, summer is not the one you just had.
Yeah.
It's going to be a new look. And so twice a year, you're going to wear different clothes anyway, but year by year, if you love fashion, you're going to have a lot of money or make your own clothes because fashion changes quickly. Remember that. That's important. And knowing which era is your favorite. How far back do you like the fashions? Are you willing to make clothing, have clothing made for you, search for clothing, and so on? Because you want your collection, you want your grouping of clothes to make some sense. A black leather jacket with a 1920s hat and 19th century pants, and then basketball sneakers. I don't think that'll work.
No. Okay.
They won't go together. Sorry,
Yeah,
I should have finished that.
所以这边老师刚才讲的那个搭配就是 won't go together 哈，这边的 go 就是指搭配的意思啦哈。所以他的意思就是说，因为 fashion 时尚这个东西它变化的速度太快了，所以呢，你第一个你还是要知道到底哪一个年代哈是你比较喜欢的，那这样子的话呢，就比较可以帮助你每一件事情，就是你的所有的搭配，从头到脚所有的搭配都可以 go together， 所以这边的 go 就是指你可以搭配到位的意思。
Right. She introduced the verb match before. Go together. Is the same as to match. Fashion is a great form of self-expression. For some people, you are what you look like. Before you start talking to another person, you will consider without realizing it, how the person is dressed, and do you feel comfortable with that? And a good vintage look will never go out of style. This is important too. Even if you are wearing 1940s clothing, if they're real and they match what you want to look like, then it's worth it. People won't say, oh, where'd you get those old clothes? It could have a very nice look. So experiment, try it out if you're into fashion.
没错，所以这边就讲了，为什么大家这么注重这个 fashion？ 因为 fashion 是一个非常这个棒的一个方法哈，就是说你要表达你自我，就是这个人好，对于别人来说看起来的那个感觉是怎么样。而如果呢，今天你要一个好看的一个复古的这样的一个外在的风貌呢，其实呢也永远不会退流行，只要它好看。只要大家觉得配合你这个人的话，其实哪一个年代穿起来这样的东西，你都不会觉得是退流行，就觉得啊太老气了，不会，其实都是很不错的。
Okay, that's it for today's material, the second day of our vintage fashion articles. And now we have time after a short break to review our vocabulary from today's lesson.
没错。
Okay, here's our vocabulary review. We've chosen 8 items, 8 words or phrases which we think are more useful or more interesting for you. The first is global. That's a word we hear a lot of these days.
没错。
Worldwide, it's around the world. It affects the whole world.
这个字是个形容词，全球的。
2, fashionable. That simply means stylish. S-T-Y-L-I-S-H. Stylish is the adjective of style.
所以这边是当形容词，时尚流行的。
Our next item, number 3, tailor. A tailor is a man who makes clothes or alters clothes, making them the right size for people. For a woman, we have another word. It's not in our lesson. Seamstress. S-E-A-M-S-T-R-E-S-S. Again, S-E-A-M. These are seams where you put pieces of clothes together. S-E-A-M-S-T-R-E-S-S.
OK， 所以一个是男性的裁缝师，一个是女性的裁缝师，所以这个字是名词。
Number 4, fit, as we have used it in yesterday's and today's lesson, means to match, to be suitable.
没错，就是很合身。
Number 5, challenging is something that is very difficult to do.
没错，形容词有挑战性的。
Our next item, be interested in. You probably already know this, but it means you are attracted to something and want to do it or buy it or try it.
对什么有兴趣的。
Number 7, decade is the word for 10 years. D-E-C from the Latin means 10. December used to be the 10th month, but is now the 12th month.
所以老师再讲一下那个字首 DEC 就是10的意思，所以这个字是10年。
And our last item is expression. Expression, as we use it here, is a sign or a show that you want other people to think about you or feel about you.
名词表示表达的意思。
All right, that's it for 2 days of lessons. Hope you've enjoyed them and learned something with us. Remember, here at Ivy, we are here for you.
没错。
Till the next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.